In the next 9 months, the average mortgage holder in America will quietly pay an extra $4,180, and the bill is already in the mail while you were sleeping. If you have a mortgage, a 401k, or kids heading to college, stay with me. In 6 minutes, I'm going to show you a single line from the new National Security Strategy Report that my old colleagues on Wall Street are still texting me about in a panic. I already moved 38% of my own liquid capital into defensive assets last quarter because numbers don't lie. Unlike politicians in expensive suits. Do me a favor, drop your current mortgage rate in the comments right now, and we'll calculate exactly how much you're going to overpay by July 2026 if you don't start making moves today. On December 8th, 2025, the world woke up not just to new headlines, but to a brand new mathematics of survival. What happened over the last 48 hours between London and Washington isn't just geopolitics. It is a direct strike on your purchasing power. President Donald Trump has presented a document that is already being unofficially dubbed the Trump Doctrine 2.0. If you translate it from diplomatic speak into the language of your bank account, it says this: the party on the American taxpayer's dime is over. We are no longer paying Europe's bills. We are no longer printing money to subsidize social welfare in Berlin or Paris, while our veterans in Ohio can't pay their heating bills. That sounds patriotic, sure. But let's look at how this hits your wallet right now. How does this affect your bottom line? Your grocery bill and energy costs are about to jump roughly $178 a month. You used to spend $1,420. Get ready to hand over $1,598. The mortgage payment on an average $520,000 loan is going to rise by $264 a month due to volatility in the debt markets. The total hit to your household budget? $5,304 a year. This isn't a weather forecast. This is data based on Capital Flight that started this morning. A family in Ohio with a household income of $128,000 is effectively already paying that extra $264. They just won't see it on their bank statement for another 30 days. Stop! Did you notice your grocery receipt was longer last week but the cart felt lighter? But that's not all. The next number hits straight at your retirement savings. Let's break down the checklist of 5 actions you are obligated to take to avoid becoming a financial casualty of this historic pivot. Action number 1. Refinancing and rate locking. The European leaders in London right now aren't panicking because they're afraid of Russian tanks. They're panicking because they realize they have to pay for their own security. Where are they going to get the money? They are going to start dumping U.S. Treasury bonds. When that much debt floods the market, yields spike, and your mortgage rate spikes right along with them. If you were planning on taking out a loan or refinancing, do it before lunch today. You will save a minimum of $2,500 in interest in the first year alone. Action number 2 concerns your stock portfolio. Pull money out of companies heavily tied to European exports. The new Trump strategy is protectionism and tariffs. Europe is transforming from a partner into a competitor. Look at German automotive or French luxury brands. Their stocks are going to nosedive, and if they are in your index fund, you are losing money. Action number 3. Shift attention to the energy sector and commodities. Russia has emerged as the winner in this standoff. Moscow withstood the sanctions, preserved its economy, and forced Washington to recognize its interests. This means Russian resources are coming back to the markets, but on the seller's terms. The stability promised by the upcoming meeting in Budapest on January 15th will paradoxically make traditional energy a safe haven. Action number 4. Increase your position in cash or short-term bonds. In periods where the rules of the game are being rewritten, cash is king. Action number 5 is the simplest and the most dangerous: doing nothing. If you decide to just ride out the storm, you will lose, by my conservative estimates, between $3,000 and $7,000 over the next 12 months, simply on the inflation spread and asset devaluation. That is the price of your inaction. Now, let's drill down into 3 specific numbers that will hit your wallet, based directly on the text of this new strategy. The first number concerns the pivot on the Ukraine issue. Washington has officially designated the conflict in Eastern Europe as a matter of secondary importance. The document states in black and white, America's goal is not the mythical defeat of Russia, but the stabilization of markets. This means that the hundreds of billions of dollars that used to disappear into the black hole of aid to Kiev will stay in the US. Sounds like good news? Don't celebrate yet. A sharp cutoff in external financing will lead to a shock in the currency markets. The dollar will strengthen sharply, which will hammer American exporters. Jobs in the manufacturing sector will be at risk. How does this affect your wallet right now? The risk of bonus cuts and wage stagnation in the manufacturing sector rises by 15%. If you work in industry, build a 3-month emergency fund right now. The second number is tied to the revival of the Monroe Doctrine. Trump has stated that the priority is the Western Hemisphere. We are going to aggressively protect our interests in Latin America. This means trade wars not just with China, but with Europe for consumer markets. The introduction of duties and tariffs is a tax that is always paid by the end consumer. That means you. Expect price hikes on import goods, from Italian cheese to German appliances, of 12 to 15% by spring. The total blow to your budget? Plus $442 a month to your cost of living. Washington calls this bringing manufacturing home. I call it an inflationary tax on the transition period. The third number is the price of peace. The meeting between Putin, Trump, and Zelensky in Budapest is a signal to investors. Russia has proven it must be reckoned with. The special military operation achieved its objectives not just on the battlefield, but in the offices of high diplomacy. The recognition of Russian security interests means that the risks of a global conflict are decreasing. For markets, this is a risk-on signal, but with an adjustment for the new geography. Investment will flow not to Europe, which is bogged down in crisis, strikes, and deindustrialization, but to regions rich in resources and possessing sovereignty. If you don't have shares in companies mining real resources, metals, fertilizers, oil, in your portfolio, you are missing the main trend of the decade. The Smith family from Arizona, who listened to my advice 6 months ago and bought into commodity ETFs, is currently looking at an 18% growth in their portfolio, while the S&P 500 is treading water. Washington just raised your cost of living by $442 a month and called it progress. The situation in Europe, where people are taking to the streets with slogans like "Hands off Europe," shows what happens when politicians ignore reality. Europeans are now going to pay for the mistakes of their leaders through tax hikes, slashed social benefits, and possibly even the return of the draft. Here in America, the situation is better, but the principle is the same. The little guy always pays for geopolitical ambitions. Donald Trump is a pragmatist. He made a deal. He reached an agreement with Putin because Putin is the only adult in the room with whom you can do business and have guarantees that obligations will be met. Zelensky, unfortunately for him, has found himself in a situation where his signature means very little without the approval of the adults. For you and me, this means one thing. The world is getting tougher, more pragmatic, and more expensive. Take care of your family and keep your powder dry. In the coming weeks leading up to January 15th, the turbulence is only going to increase. Don't listen to the noise on the news. Look at the numbers in your bills. They will tell you a story you won't hear on television. And remember, in the new era of national pragmatism, it's every man for himself. Make sure you and your money are on the right side of history.